Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the initiative Saturdays for Sustainability Learning. And to remind all of us, so this is a safe place or it's an open discussion to understand sustainability in a holistic manner. So, at the start of the discussion itself, I would like to invite you all as a experts or resource person or guest person. So, please feel free to add your insights, add your experiences, and that's how we can learn more from this limited time. So if you have joined for the first time and what is this, if you don't know about it, so I'll just quickly share in 2 minutes. So this is a mastermind group where we try to learn from each other. It's a mentoring group, you can say. We try to find out solutions, but for that you also need to come forward and share your problems or whatever concerns you have, so that it gets value added by all of us. So if you are joining, so I understand time is the most valuable commodity. So what you will get from this 60 minutes is learning new concept or a new way of looking at a concept, networking, learning opportunities or career opportunities, and last is thought leadership in sustainability. So these are some of the outcomes that you will definitely get. And the basic foundation, if you ask me, two concepts for this session is this is the data information knowledge wisdom pyramid. If you look like this, so we have more data, more information in today's age and time than we can possibly consume. So every week there is something new coming, and with human effort it's not possible to know all these things or read all these things, but one thing is absolutely possible: to learn from each other with our experiences, with our own understanding, so we can help each other. And second key foundation is the discussion and question and answer. And I feel this is the best way to learn, asking right questions and without fear of how would I look. So, uh, without thinking about silly question, is it silly question or not? So, whatever question it is, if it is genuine, so I don't feel it's silly. So, please feel free to ask questions or raise any concern and add your viewpoints as well. And just before starting today's session, so hope you have already registered with this Google form. Registration is required so that you will get the calendar invite. Otherwise, you can join if you are in WhatsApp group also. But this is the way I have automated the process. That's how we can devote our time to valuable activities. Okay. All right. So I'll directly start with today's session. Today's topic was, and I must say this is just 10 days before this Global Risk Report 2025 launched, just 15 January 2025. And this is just 10 days after we are connecting to discuss about Global Risk Report. And just basic details I'll quickly share and then we will go to this report. So Global Risk Report, a basic 30-second answer would be, so this is a report which leverages the insights from Global Risk Perception Survey. So there is a survey, Global Risk Perception Survey, which is done across world, and around 900 global leaders viewpoint is captured with this survey. And these are multi stakeholder, we can say, from business, government, academia, civil society. So all different kind of leaders are contacted, their opinions are taken into account, and then this report is written. And if you ask about this year's report, this is the 20th year. Means from 2005, they have been writing each year this global risk report, and it is published in two ways. What are risks in imminent future? Like if we have asked, let's say, what do you think it is for 2025 and 26? Immediate in the 2 years. So that is one way. And second is, what is the long term in 10 years? What do you think what will happen in 10 years, and what is your risk perception? So accordingly, it is categorized into this multiple sectors. You can say geopolitical, environmental, social, technological, and multiple way. And it is represented with some nice graphs, and it would be great to look at it. So in today's session, what we are going to do is I'll just quickly share what is there in report, and then some of the key findings we will have a discussion on it. And meanwhile, if you have anything to add, I'm sure you have also gone through this report. Please feel free to share your insights and your observations as well. So I'll directly take you to the original source, that is global risk report, and I hope you can see it on the screen. So this is Global Risk Report 2025 28th edition, and it's around 104 pages. We will not read entire report in this session, but at least what is there. So chapter one is a global risk report, global risk. So what are risks 25 and 27? So how is it? And 35, that is long term, 10 years. And a good thing to start would be, I would say, the summary, and directly you can read the appendix. So that's a good definitions and how they have captured. So that's a good thing in this report. So I'll just quickly start with some of the highlighted sections. I have not highlighted much, so we can finish it quickly. But please feel free to stop me if somewhere you want to have discussion, or we can discuss on some points. So please, yeah. So concerns about state-based armed conflict and geo-economic confrontation have an average remained relatively high in the ranks over the last 20 years with some variability. Today, geopolitical risk, and specifically the perception that conflict could worsen or spread, top the list of immediate term concerns. Fear and uncertainty cloud the outlook in various parts of the world, including in Ukraine, the Middle East, and Sudan, which multilateral institutions struggling to provide effective mediation and work towards resolution. So this is one of the risks, and so this report highlights latest findings from survey. We have already discussed 900 global leaders. It also leverages insights from some 100 thematic experts, including the risk specialists who form the Global Risk Report Advisory Board, the Global Future Council on Complex Risk, and the Chief Risk Officer Community. We would also like to express our gratitude. Okay. Yeah, so these are some of the things. Then, so when these responses were collected, you can see over here. So for this report, for this survey, it was collected between 2nd September to 18 October 2025. So we can say last quarter of the 2024. So they have been asked, what is your perception for the risk in 2025 and for the 10 year, 1, 2, and 10 year. Okay, so these are some of the key findings. All right, so I'll directly go to some of, yeah, so this is important graph. So as you can see, the risk categories are economic, environmental, geopolitical, societal, and technological. And you can see the color coded into second year and 2 year and 10 years perception as well. So starting from 2 years, so I'll just quickly read this 10 risks, and uh, please pay attention to the words, and please think about it. So what do you think about this risk? Okay, so I'll just quickly read for 2 years. First is misinformation and disinformation. Second is extreme weather events. Third is state-based armed conflict. Fourth is societal polarization. Fifth is cyber espionage and warfare. Sixth, pollution. Seventh, inequality. Eighth, involuntary migration or displacement. Ninth, geoeconomic confrontation. And 10th is erosion of human rights and or civic freedom. So these are the top 10 risks, but actually they had mentioned 33 risks, and people have to give the priority, like which is according to you is the first, and accordingly this has been formulated. And in the same way, if we talk about 10 years, so extreme weather events is the top, then biodiversity loss and economic collapse. Third is critical change to our system. Fourth is natural resource shortage. Then fifth and sixth is misinformation, disinformation, adverse outcomes of AI technologies. So AI comes there. Seventh is inequality, common for 2 and 10 years. Societal polarization, cyber espionage and warfare, and 10th is pollution. Someone want to speak? Hi Ramaya, you want to add something? Okay. So just one question, because when I read this, so first was misinformation and disinformation. So do you think there is difference between misinformation and disinformation? And if yes, what?
In my
On.
opinion, misinformation means it's giving wrong data kind of things, and
Mhm,
disinformation means you are giving some partial information and derive into a wrong kind of conclusion. Your
mhm,
partial data may be correct, but which leads to a kind of misguided conclusion.
mhm. Okay. Yeah. Any other opinion? Any other viewpoint? Because I thought initially why they have given two. Either they can say mis or either they can say disinformation. So this was first question. Yes, Achyut, you want to say something, please?
Yeah, I think it's the difference. If I were to do an analogy, it would be as simple as misinformation is like kind of unknowingly saying something which may not be correct.
Mhm.
Disinformation is knowingly doing that.
All right.
And one observation I made from this was
Mhm,
in the near term, people don't see much of an environmental impact
mhm,
for the real short term. But if you look into the 10-year, almost
mhm.
top four are all environment concerns.
All right. Okay. Yeah, and even extreme weather events and also earlier it used to be like it will happen in future, but now it's second in 2 years also. So immediate future also people are getting, let's say, a flavor of how it will happen. When we say extreme weather event, so what is the intensity and how it will happen? So people are also getting to know, and they are seeing the seriousness of it. Yeah.
And one more thing I noted from this was, though the survey ended October 24th or something, right? A lot of this misinformation, disinformation, I think that would have made to the top, uh, even with a bigger margin, if people knew that there was a dispensation change coming in the US.
Mm, yeah. Yes, and thanks for adding that point. Because let's see who are the people around among that 900. So that is also interesting question to ask. So if this is 900 people or 909 to be exact, so from which continent, from which country these people are coming, and is there any region from where people are, let's say, in majority or maximum, and that's how this report might get deviated, because this is a my favorite thing that I do. So whenever I read a report, so I always try to think who are the stakeholder who are writing this report, or whether is there any interest for them to write in this way. So that is first thing that I always do, and there is something at the end. I'll show that. But before that, as we were discussing misinformation and disinformation, so while checking that, I got this from United Nations. So this is one of the fact sheets. I don't know, it's there. Yes, UNHCR. So this is from United Nations, one of the fact sheet, and here it is given that misinformation is a false or inaccurate information like a rumor or insult or prank, and disinformation is a deliberate and malicious content. So if and Achyut, as you said, it's right. So disinformation is with intent. So if someone is doing it with intent, so that comes under disinformation. And yeah, so they have given a lot of examples for misinformation and disinformation. So this can be useful. And also there are multiple. Uh, for me, I read these concepts for first time. Online identity theft or what is this? Lining, astroturfing, catfishing. So yeah, so I read this first time, so multiple things are there. But yeah, so this is a big risk, and especially in today's time, we don't know which content is genuinely written and what is from AI and what is fake data. So that's definitely one of the big concerns. Now let's go to the end of this report because we were just discussing about country and region. Okay, so yeah, so this appendix have some wonderful resource. So I would recommend reading this appendix first because then we will get better understanding. So let's say what are the definitions in this report? So you can get, let's say, what is climate change or what is the global risk? So starting from it's a global risk report. So what is a global risk? So it's possibility of occurrence of an event or condition that would negatively impact significant proportion of global GDP, population, or natural resources. And there are multiple definitions and how this has been calculated. And even if we read about one risk, so what is the definition of that risk? So that is also given. Okay, so for example, misinformation and disinformation. Let's take this only. So what is a definition from this report? So that is also given over here. All right, so I'll just quickly go to next. And this appendix B is about methodology and how this is captured, how this is presented. Yeah, so this is something that we wanted to discuss. Survey sample composition. So yeah, region wise, if you see, so one thing, because I read this part for the first time, means this year's report. For previous year report, I hadn't given that much attention over here, but this year, Europe, if you see, around 39.7%, means around 40% people are from Europe, and I feel that is too much for this. So it should have been maybe more participation from other parts as well. What are your views?
I think if I am looking at Southern Asia, which I'm assuming includes both India and China,
Hmm.
that's nearly like 3 billion out of the 8 billion population, which is
Hmm.
around roughly 38% of the world's population. And that representation that is not well represented, probably because of the opaqueness of a lot of companies, organizations in China. But
Hmm.
I definitely would have expected some higher numbers there from a Southern Asia, at least from the democracies that are available in this part of the world.
Right.
I don't blame them. WEFs typically tend to look at more well-established organizations than
Hmm.
up-and-coming ones.
Yeah. But maybe we are not judging, but this is just one
Yeah,
input for us. Yeah.
true, true, true. No, it is not judging, but not missing out on the point. The point
Yeah.
that there is an representation of a certain geographies, which I think it's not just limited to WEF. I think it is limited. It's across the world, or any many of the world organizations that exist today are heavily biased towards
Yeah.
more developed organizations, which I think over time it will have to change.
Yeah. Agree. Agree. Yes. And on the other hand, for organizations, if you see, 36% is business, then academia 19%, government 17%, international organizations 12, civil society 13. So I feel this is okay. Looking at the numbers available or the way institutions are, so this seems okay. Even for gender, it's 61% male and 39% female. So this is as per gender and also age group. This seems fair. Just the observation was about region for us, right? Yeah, yeah. And one more interesting point from this risk is what is there before starting the session we were just discussing. So uh, if we consider world as one, let's say entire world in first perspective, so we see that these are the top risks, right? Like we listed 10 risks for, let's say, short term 2 years or 10 years. But if we see at national level, it's completely different life. Means a life a person lives in India and let's say a person who is living in any region where war is there or some other country. So it's completely different. The life of people are completely different, and that's where this national risk perception is interesting thing. Okay, so they have also captured from around 11,000 respondents. So this was, I guess, online uh, survey, and they have captured what is the risk for these people, and they have written it as per country. So if you just see, let's say, Australia's risks, we can see specifically difference between developed countries, and especially, let's say, if we take about Europe, so it's majorly about economic downturn, recession, inflation, lack of labor. So that kind of risks are there. And if we talk about, let's say, Africa or maybe least developed countries, so their water, food, extreme climate, extreme weather events. So these kind of things are there. So we can just for demonstration purpose, we can see some of the countries. First, starting from India, let's see what is there for India, and then we can compare it with others. Where is India? Yeah. So for India, top five: water supply shortage, misinformation and disinformation. Third is erosion of human rights and or civic freedom. Fourth is pollution, air, water, soil. And fifth is labor and or talent shortage. So I'm really concerned about this fifth point actually. I don't know how it came here, but at least for India, this should not be the risk. Looking at the demographic dividend that we have, looking at the young population that India has, so maybe this is for debate for some another day. But if anybody would like to add anything on this five risks, so you can.
Kulkarni
Uh,
sir,
yes, sir, please.
see one of the reports which has been published, see, in
Mhm,
spite of India being land of rivers,
mm,
right? What has been projected is that within by 2050 or so, because of abuse of or misuse of water which is there, and also these extreme weather events which are
mhm,
predicted, it is likely that India is going to have a suffer from water stress. And this has been projected not today,
mhm,
maybe 5 years ago itself, the way it is going, and the one side is the development, the other side is the issue of lack of water in various locations. So
mhm.
this is something of a concern if we see that, and a lot of efforts will have to be done. Not only cleaning of Ganga or Yamuna, this thing, but internally a sustainable water supply system with rejuvenation of lakes and also ponds and storing water, so that locally people are in a position to manage the sort of water supply and shortage by themselves. So
All
that
right.
sustainable model is what is lacking. Like if you remember those days, I don't know how many of us will remember that Rajendra Singh from Rajasthan, he was
Waterman of
called as
India, right?
exactly waterman of India. He did lot of work in a place like Rajasthan. And today, I mean, situation is changed a bit. But this is something of a concern if we see that. Now, coming to the fifth point, if we see the labor and talent shortage, many of the industries, they are fully dependent as of now on the availability of manual labor. If
Mm,
we see brick making or garment industry or footwear industry, and these are all very, I mean, highly uh, intensive industries for manpower. But the
Right.
existing population, as you say, the
Mm-hmm.
younger generation, they wouldn't like to go in for these sort of jobs. They are
Mm-hmm.
more interested in white collar jobs or getting into newer types of industries. So the traditional industries which depend on the skill of manpower or artisans, that is slowly dying down, maybe because of technology or other developments which are happening. But this is the real reason, if we see, is the labor shortage. Like if we go
Mm-hmm.
to a place like South India, Tirupur, which generates 25,000 or 30,000 crores of business in one small place.
Mm-hmm.
Today it has come to this thing of the dependency is on more than 50 to 60%, or even some places 70% dependency on the migrant workers, meaning people from other states and other areas. Now, if we really look at it, the state of Tamil Nadu doesn't mean there are not many people. There are people who are searching for jobs. They wouldn't
Right.
like to get into that. So, the impact is felt on the labor intensive industries like construction, uh, garments, footwear, apparel, and related types of industries. But on the other side, if you see that Zomato or other people, they are in a position to give employment to
Right.
various others. So it's a very strange thing, and what is likely to happen is that's why that skill mission and other things are being thought
Yeah.
of by government. Maybe that will, to a reasonable extent, address this. So I just
Right.
wanted to discuss only these two. But
Um,
second one of misinformation and disinformation, they
Mm-hmm.
cited this issue of misinformation, disinformation in the period of COVID. So one is misinformation, giving all inaccurate informations, and second is propaganda to see about vaccines and it is good or it is bad, and people
Right.
started reacting to that, and that sort of a thing happened. So they would like to stop or mitigate these sort of things so that credibility and trust is ensured in the sharing of information. So this is what has been discussed in the recent times.
Yeah. Agree.
so,
Agree, sir.
sir, I have one point or query to add. I think
Please.
you have given a very good explanation. And with regards to labor shortage, I kind of agree. I do agree. But why would we say that we have a talent shortage in India?
I can I try answering that question?
Please. Please.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So generally, what we are talking of, I think I'll be a little more biased towards the technology domain because that's where I operate in. Generally, it is not the availability of labor, but the availability of the skill to do the job that is required. And many of the industry leaders would be looking at information technology based solutioning to their problems. IT is omnipresent now, so all industries would need IT and things like that. And with all these up and coming technologies shifts because of generative AI and stuff like that, they would expect people to be upskilled in those domains, which they may not be. So the universities are not providing that kind of an education, nor are there any finishing schools that are teaching the up and coming advancements in technology, whether it is
Um,
biotech, and hence I see that as a talent shortage not availability of labor, but availability of talent.
But yeah, I mean, that is true. But on the other hand, the way technology is changing, it is very quick. And, it is very easy to get outdated,
Mhm.
so I just feel that even companies need to, play a role in upskilling the employees or giving a chance.
Agree.
So,
True.
Agree.
True,
And
but it's a risk perception, right? They are perceiving that the talent is
hmm,
short,
right,
and
right,
how to solve that would probably not be a part of this questionnaire. Probably there'll be another
right.
report which says that.
Yeah,
It's a double-sided, I mean, two-sided problem. One is companies, they have a fear that if they train people, they will leave them because of supply demand situation. So they have the fear that if people get trained, they will lose them. So they would like to keep them. This is, I mean, not a good perception at all. But this is one part of it because the replacement cost of people is very high. If you look at it, it's 70% or 60% more effort which has to be taken to replace somebody. So this is one part of it. The second thing, as was told, it is the technological obsolescence with so much of change happening. It is really difficult to keep pace with the developments. So, more than depending on companies or organizations, the self upskilling becomes very critical. Otherwise, you are out of the race or you are in a different domain altogether. So, both these things happen uh, are required, and with the overload of information which is there, what is to be gained as a skill and what will be relevant in today's context, that is for the individuals to judge.
I
I
think that's
uh,
very well
I'm
explained.
yeah. I may add just one small point. Like another
please.
issue for talent is that brain drain, which remained a big issue for many many years. Like top students and or the top talents are always finding a better opportunity to work outside India. So that may be another issue because we have a talent, but the really the talents which can make impact, or we can say the disruptive talents, they are actually purchased by the companies outside India.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's evident from the number of CEOs in USA, top MNCs.
yeah.
How many are
Hey,
from India?
one more thing, just what I was thinking. Uh,
Yes.
what our present education system is there, right? And what exactly the skills are required due to the technological advancement, what others have said about that point. Maybe there is a gap also. Uh, so that can also maybe impact in future, what you can say to the industry. So that may be also one of the point.
Yeah, actually, I support your point. This is an important point. So I'm also take some interest about education and education institute. So India, in one hand, we have extremely good institutes like IITs and NITs, but at the same time, there are n number of private technical schools, universities are coming up,
Yeah,
and their education system is not only bad, I would say pathetic. Basically, they don't have even
Agree.
teachers doesn't know what they're saying. So though we
yeah,
have
yeah,
a lot of engineers, but
yeah,
unfortunately, even if you give a job to them to work, a very simple technician's work, they are not able to perform because it's not their fault, but there is no checks and balance for the n number of universities, private universities which are coming up, and they're also not cheap. Parents are spending a lot of money, but
Yeah.
this is also another social issue in our case in India.
Agree. Agree. Agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
adding on to these points from another perspective, even people are not adapting for the technology. So there are companies, there are forums which they provide free courses on skill development, but people are not adapting for that.
Yeah,
So I
agree,
think
agree.
people have to show up their talent by learning.
Yeah. And in
No,
today's time,
I just
money is not
add.
required for learning.
Yeah, in this point, I would also like to add, there is a policy makers. If you see the policy makers in terms of both the government officers and as well as the politicians, especially the politicians, they are en masse not at all updated, very close to the technology at all. So they have no feeling. So, and their decision making is often biased by some strange things. So maybe political interest or some giving some favorable situation to some group of people. So they are not really uh, working the way the kind of education system should come. That is having a big gap, except some elite universities, but they are very few.
Agree, agree. And I'll just stop here for this point's discussion. The reason being, next week we are discussing future of jobs report. So there we will definitely have more discussion and insights about this. So I'll just quickly take ahead, and I want to share because at this point we have one critical insight that all of us shared, and that is these problems are not, let's say, siloed. If we talk about, let's say, water supply shortage, so it's not only about water supply shortage, it is interconnected with many other risks as well. So this is interconnected. So that is something that I also realize now. And going forward, so just quickly see how it is different for different countries. So and then we will again go back to how it is interconnected. We will just quickly have a discussion on that. So let's say if you talk about Mali, so armed conflict, energy supply shortage, artificial intelligence, so adverse outcomes of AI, chronic health conditions. For Luxembourg or for developed regions, if you say talent shortage or labor shortage, this is the top risk for even for European countries. Economic downturn, recession, cyber insecurity, private debt, inflation. So these are some of the top risks. Then, hmm, which country you want to see? Just let me know.
We want to see China. What is for China?
Let's see.
Be- Because we are equally populated.
Yeah, Chile.
Yeah, down.
Where is China?
It was just, I think, down below Chile or on the right side of Chile. I don't
No,
know.
Croatia, Chad, Costa Rica, Colombia. Just a minute.
I, I think you have to just search.
Yeah,
Fine.
I'm searching.
China is the hottest topic. We can't.
Maybe it is People Republic of China. It's that way.
Yeah, maybe.
No, no.
Hello.
Hong Kong, SAR, China. No, this is different. Taiwan and China.
Where
This
are
is
you
together.
now?
Yeah.
No, this where is China? Just a
No,
minute.
where are you right now? So what time you are saying I should come? Okay, I'll come.
Hi Angira, can you please mute yourself if you are not speaking? Which you should we should take? Hong Kong, SAR, China. So this is one. Taiwan, China, and no, separate China is not there separately.
Yeah, like I said, they may not have opened up for
Mm,
this
yeah.
survey. They're more closed economy than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
It's not
their
open.
data is not also not included, I think.
there is a data scarcity for China. Even in financial data, there's so
Hmm.
much of scarcity. They don't disclose
They don't
much of
share.
the
Yeah, they
company.
don't disclose at all. Actually, what is happening?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Couple of years back, I was discussing this sustainability with someone who is from China. Actually, origins are from China, but that person got education in Europe. So we were just discussing about sustainability. So that person told me that yes, agree. There are this kind of what we just spoke. So there are issues about closed systems are there or more strict controls are there. But one thing is sure, so if they have decided to do something, then they achieve that. For example, I guess Beijing or some city, so they reduce pollution significantly. And if we talk about the pollution, air pollution, water pollution, or the overall energy demand for that entire region, so they have significantly reduced that. So in that way, means agree, everything is not fine, but there are some good things also. If we get some good policy or good things, so how they implement, and the people from China are very confident about that. Of course, there will be multiple views, so that's the way things are. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll directly now move to let's see Sri Lanka. Okay, let's just a minute. It's labor, talent shortage, economic downturn, recession, public debt. We know that debt is one of the big reasons, big issue at Sri Lanka, or inflation. So this has been in news for last, I guess, 2 years. Poverty and inequality. What is about USA? Economic downturn, recession, inflation, adverse outcomes of AI, food supply shortage, and extreme weather events. Okay, great. So now let's come back because we have only 15 minutes left now. So what I wanted to show you now was uh, all these risks or all these whatever we are discussing. So it's not only about any one risk. So and it is interrelated and it's impacting other risks as well. And that's why it's very important. So this is the network, or I hope you can see this, right? So this is from the report itself. Okay, so I'll just quickly share. So this is relative influence. If this is thick, this is high, the edges. So you can say high influence. And nodes are also shown in that way. And the colors, as we already saw, it's about different categories. So if we take any one example, let's see. Let's follow any one thing and understand how it's represented. Okay, all right. So let's take misinformation and disinformation as this was being the top. So as we can see, so misinformation is leading to intrastate violence, erosion of human rights and civic freedom. Uh, yeah, so how it can be done, how it happens, we can understand, right? So if there is misinformation, purposefully some information is, or people are misled, so human rights or civic freedom, so that will have huge consequences, and governments are already concerned about this. Even in last year or last election, I guess, for US, it was a big concern, right? So how Russia's influence into the US elections, or there are many concerns in the election process of many nations, how it is governed and how it is manipulated. Censorship and surveillance, yes, this will have connection. Online harms, absolutely, misinformation is connected. Societal polarization, yes, it's a high correlation. Yeah, so what I can see, everything is connected to each other, at least. Right, so can we say that each and every risk is connected to each other, but the extent, if it is high, then we can take conscience of it and we can work around it. So how to have a solution, or maybe uh, which are the best solutions to maybe try to solve this problem. So Economic downturn is directly or high influence on the debt, and in the same way, debt also economic downturn, asset bubble burst or inflation. So economic downturn, inflation, debt, economic downturn to lack of economic opportunity or unemployment, direct connection. Yeah. So this is it. If anybody would like to see something, please let me know from this. I'll stop sharing my screen and let's open this for discussion, free discussion maybe. Yes. Is there anything that you want to see from report? We can go back, or if you want to discuss anything regarding this report, please.
So one of the things I kind of was looking at was the misinformation from the AI
Mhm.
aspects, right?
Mhm.
Apparently, looks like the people that were surveyed may not have had a deeper uh, push in that direction, but in my personal opinion, I do feel that's a bigger threat from a cyber insecurity as well as any of the threats that it could even be a big misinformation, disinformation source as well, right? If they with all these deep fakes and everything, and if the technology improves so much that you could spread disinformation as good as somebody has really said it. So
Right.
from a threat perception perspective, I do feel this may maybe by the time they send out the next year's report, it may come more on the top of the list. Right now, they are only seeing it as a risk for more developed economies, but
Mhm.
it could be bigger for the entire geography.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And if you just think about sustainability, how this correlates is, for example, in a developing country, and there is some good project for sustainability. Uh, it's not possible to plainly say that this project is completely sustainable or not. There are always environmental impact for that. A judicious decision, let's say, building, let's say, metro for one city, let's say Pune's example, and there definitely there will be some environmental harm, but at a larger picture, whether it is actually helping sustainability or not. So building this infrastructure will help this economy or this particular country or this city. It will have more positive impact for the country. But if let's say there is some interest group and who want to stop this, so with misinformation, with disinformation, and they will try to hamper this sustainability efforts as well. And if there are let's say inputs from all these sides, so people also get confused, and even the intent is pure for people, but still there are issues with that as well. So this is just one thing I could think of as you shared.
I just want to share one of my observation, like about the risk. One of the biggest risk which we discussed or have been discussed during Ukraine war is the use of weapon of mass destructions. So I see it is not coming anywhere. So that way, we see these are not really a risk because the use of one of them will be creating a huge problem to the environment and sustainability. So I see
Yeah.
it is not coming in the report at all, so which is a good one.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, but
It is
just to clarify,
indirectly.
just to clarify, this WF Global Risk Perception Survey is not specific to sustainability, right? It's across the industry, so they may not be focused on how it could affect sustainability of the world. But I think their first risk that they call out, which is the uh, geopolitical situation as the biggest risk, that probably encompasses most of that concern around the world order changing and lots of destruction happening. That is the highest risk, at least in the shorter term, for 25, 26. My presumption is that weapons of mass destruction and destruction of places would be falling under that risk.
Mhm. Right. So it's a good point. So just let's see what are 33 all the risks. Just a minute. I'm sharing it on screen. So let's see what are the other risks which are not in top 10. I hope you can see my screen and it's readable. Right.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So I'll just scroll down because we have already seen the top 10. So let's check for 2 years. Crime, concentration of strategic resources, lack of economic opportunity, online harm, debt, censorship and surveillance, critical change to our system, natural resource shortage, economic downturn. Just a minute, I need to. Yeah. Yes. Economic downturn, insufficient public infrastructure, biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse. Yeah, biological, chemical, and nuclear hazards. So this is one. Intrastate violence, asset bubble burst, disruption to criminal infrastructure, critical infrastructure. I'm sorry, disruptions to critical infrastructure, infectious diseases, talent shortage, inflation, decline in health and well-being, adverse outcomes of AI, non-weather related natural disasters, and adverse outcome of frontier technologies. Okay, so these were the all 33 lists, 33 risks which were shared. And same you can see in the long term as well.
Kulkarni sir,
Yes, Murli sir, please.
see, I was just listening to the
Mm-hmm.
presentation and discussion on this in the forum in YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
they have given as, interesting points they have covered are
Mm-hmm.
three. Number one is that if we look at the 2 years, the global risk report and the list of the risks for 2 years and the 10-year risk, what they have given, what
Mm-hmm.
you showed now, if we really closely look at it,
Mm-hmm.
out of the list, what is the items which are given,
Mm-hmm.
5 of them are related to environment.
Right.
If you see the 10-year, if you
Right.
count that, 5 of them are related to environment. So this is the trend, a pointer that the environmental risks are likely to become agenda in future, for which
Right.
mitigation process will have to be initiated. This is number one.
Right.
Number two, what they say is that AI, with the technological development and everything happening, that
Mm-hmm.
is going to be a boon to identify the scenarios and also understand what could not be understood earlier. Only
Mm-hmm.
thing is, as you rightly discussed about the misinformation, disinformation, it has to be more of a responsible AI wherein it will be in a position to rather enable to address these identified risks. So that is something positive if we see that. The third point, what they have indicated, discussed, is that while we are looking at a global risk report, okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whenever we look at a risk, we have to look at opportunities also.
Right.
Why can't we look at it in a positive way to see to it that these risks provide opportunity for improvement, the
Right.
societal improvement, technology, or economic improvement, whatever possible, to see to it that a path is laid out, maybe for the business, for the country, or for the international trade itself. So they are looking at it with a different perception. that why can't you look at it from the opportunity point of view? And if that advantage is taken forward, whatever be through the policies or the processes which will have to be taken care of, that may help in addressing future issues, or rather we will be reasonably be future ready. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
essence of that discussion. Important 3 points they came up with.
Great. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. And what was the thing I wanted to share then? I just remembered something when sir shared. I forgot. Yes. So anything anyone wanted to add, please, you can. Yeah. So I just remember. I just remember. So what I was saying. So as sir said, risk and opportunities, right? So if we perceive this as an opportunity and how we can improve the situation. So there is a popular quote in let's say negotiations, right? So a perceived tactic is no tactic. Means you already know the tactic of your adversary, and if you already know, then it's a no tactic, right? In the same way, in sustainability or for let's say these risks, a perceived risk should enable us to manage better these risks, right? So maybe in that viewpoint we can see it. And one question for all of us would be, so at least we know this risk, but knowing is not enough. What can be the application of having read this report? And one of them which came to my mind is even in our IWA 48 discussion, that is ISO standard for ESG implementation. So in that report, we have seen that multiple places they have given risk and opportunities, right? So that has to be taken into account. So having read this report, we should be prepared in a better way to analyzing which are different risks at least, and then to interrelate these risks, identify what is in our control, or let's say if we are talking about organizations, so what are the actionable items and how do we reduce this risk and convert them into opportunities. So I guess this can be one learning outcome for us. And I'll ask the same question for all of you. Having read this report, what will change for us?
I just, since you mentioned about ISO, that's things, I
Yeah.
think they are too close to a particular project or a particular situation and not a very global one. Because the
Mm-hmm.
risks, what is discussed in this global risk is very generic in nature. So this risk
Right.
will be there for everyone. So once we are doing some kind of ISO audit, I don't know whether it will be having, because it has no differentiating factors between projects.
Mm-hmm.
So the risks
Mm-hmm.
what we discuss in those kind of audits are very specific to the project, like no
Right.
the specific to the project, specific to the company, and the practices and all may not be a very global kind of things if the war happens and blah blah blah. But of course it's good to mention them, yes.
Yeah. No, means how I was saying. So anyway, in double materiality or materiality assessment for the organization, so they also take consideration of what is happening outside, let's say, in entire world and how that can impact the organization, right? And at the same time, how organization can impact the environment or the surrounding. So in that way, I thought this can be one of the applications, maybe not wholly as directly as the report says, but a way to look at things.
Yeah, it's good to look at these things and prepared it that this if this risk happens, then how kind of GHG projects or the companies will react to it. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Final comments for the same question, please. Or if you want to add other point also, please feel free to add. And also, one thing I wanted to mention in today's session is, please don't feel language as a barrier for the discussion. If you want to say something, and Hindi is also fine. So if you want to speak in Hindi, but expressing ourselves is most important. Language is just a medium. So please feel free to. add as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
maybe I just want to mention one
Mm-hmm.
another kind of risks which
Mm-hmm.
maybe a systematic breakdown risk. They have talked about systematic breakdown, but not very specific. For example, WTO organization, now
Mm-hmm.
World Health Organization, because you have seen right now Trump has withdrawn the support of
Right.
World Health Organization. So these are all systematic failure kind of things or whatever it is. So this will
Mm-hmm.
have impact. Like if the World Health Organization US withdraws, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually the allies of US withdraws, then this organization becomes weak. Similar
Yeah.
thing happens with World Trade Organizations. If some country or some group of countries started misusing, misinterpretation, so the whole thing can breaks, because this is all people points out very vocally about the Chinese policy, because all the manufacturing is getting concentrated there. So practically the all competitions are getting destroyed. So the fundamental of World Trade Organization policies are getting lost. So this kind of risk is not mentioned, which is a very practical risks which will be hitting us,
Mm-hmm.
any point of time.
I think while I was going through the report, one of the things that
Mm-hmm.
they mentioned about was the lot of these multilateral organizations that we are talking of, uh, whether it is UN or WEF and other forums that are there. Uh, they are losing, not WEF, but many of the UN organizations are losing heft because they are not unable to solve the problems. Whether it is UNSC, it couldn't stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. It couldn't stop the Israel conflicts. It hasn't been able to solve Sudan conflict, Syria conflicts. So essentially this confidence on that multilateral
Institutions.
organizations institutions is becoming poor. And so this same document, right, that we were reviewing, has it is becoming more complex and more interconnected, and leadership is more and more looking at minilateral rather than multilateral agreements and connections. Some of these uh, organized countries with heft tend to make some unilateral decisions. They had said this in the report, but we are already seeing that in day five of Trump, he has changed so many of those
Yeah.
things. So many of the unilateral, minilateral conversations become more and more, and that they have actually called it out in this document as there is a need for multilateral changes, and we need effective collaboration and visionary leadership at the world order to sustain these organizations. They call this out as a risk, uh, a longer term risk, but I don't know how well we are as a world prepared to address this at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Thank you. Yes. So final invitation for anyone, if you want to say something, if we haven't heard your voice, please.
Yeah,
And just
just I
one
was.
line statement. Sorry. I had one line statement. There was
Yeah.
this big discussion on this document about the structural forces. I think that's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting part that people should read of, whether it is the geostrategic shifts, technology acceleration. In addition to climate change, there is also this demography change, right? People moving to cities and people relocating within Europe based on jobs and other things. So the this report talks heavily about some of the structural forces.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be an interesting read to add on to whatever we discussed here today.
Yes. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
Amol here.
Yes,
Yes,
Amal.
actually, I was just thinking about this report because every 6 months we review our business risk. Okay. So I was just thinking that there are many points actually,
Mm-hmm.
we think on the short-term risk and the long-term risk. Okay. So I was thinking there are a lot of risks actually we have to consider, considering this report also. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good insight actually. So we can also think on this, considering the business operations, what we are doing. Okay. And maybe it is for majority of the people over here.
Yeah. So just a trivia. So this report, I feel like a Delphi technique. Has anyone heard about Delphi technique?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So it's just you take some of the experts, you ask them questions, and accordingly you derive the solution. I hope this is the correct. So when I read this report, first thought came in my mind. So it's like a Delphi technique. How it has captured. So maybe in organizations also, in same way that has been done.
Yeah.
Just a similarity, not maybe as it is, but yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So it was wonderful discussion. Final invitation for anyone who want to say hi, you can. Okay, all right. So I'll stop the recording now, and maybe if we want to discuss, we can continue.